Peak Marketers, this is Bill Guthrie, and I am so excited to be talking with my good friend, Ben Adkins.
What's going
Ben,
on, man?
hey man, Ben is a social media expert. He's a sought-after speaker, and he's the CEO of Scriptdoll, which is a software that allows users to create high-converting copy with ease, regardless of their experience level. We'll be digging into that a little bit in the after-hours show, but for now, Ben, are you ready to rock?
Let's do it, man. I'm excited to be here, and I think we're gonna have a little bit of fun today. So should be a good time.
Awesome. Let's make it a lot of fun. Let's start. Tell us about Ben Atkins, the person, and how you've kind of established your business.
Sure. I started off as a chiropractor. Actually, I had a brick and mortar business. I loved, healthcare, and I loved kind of that alternate, not so in depth with medicine. Worked really well with medical doctors for a while. Was basically in that whole network of, we were a chiropractic office. We were working really well with hospitals and things, but had all the overhead of, a brick and mortar business. And when we got started, we had a lot of competitors that had been there a long time. They had a lot of trust, and we were in a smaller town. So we actually had to look for some alternate ways to market ourselves and, stumbled onto the internet and social media. And within a few months, we had just shot our practice through the roof and our business was doing great. But, it was one of those things where I remember that as I was running this business, I started reading the 4 Hour Work Week, which, didn't that break all of us? And
Yeah, the blessing and the curse of the 4 hour work week, right?
yeah, so I'm laying in bed one night, I'm reading this book, and I'm like, I have made a huge mistake because as much as I love this business, I am stuck. The busier I get in this business, the more I will not see my family, which when, at about that time, I'm having a 4 year old, I've got a 4 year old now, so 4 years ago, I'm having a kid, and it's our first kid, and like, I'm really starting to lock in with, hey, I would like to see my family every so often. And so what was interesting is, we actually right around that time, everything just kind of, serendipity. We started having people ask us, "Hey, how did you get your practice so big so fast?" So people started asking us. I took on some clients to help them. Then I was like, "This takes even more time than what I'm doing." So we started writing things down, doing courses for people to help them with their business. And I looked up one day and realized within 2 or 3 months, we had built an information business, which didn't even know what that was at the time. And it was far surpassing in 2 months what I was doing the entire year in the chiropractic practice. So I was like, we need to probably explore this a little further, and we did. And 4 years later, this is the full-time gig, and we are reaching back still to help people get their start and improve their situation. So that's kind of how it all started.
That's awesome, man. When you look at your business and kind of look back over the last 4 years, what was a stumbling block that you felt like, man, if we can just get past this, things will really start flowing?
It's perpetually me. It's,
You are the stumbling block.
it is. It's like, it's one of those things where you figure out how to do something, right? So, you figure out a tactic, or a method that helps people grow their business and grow your business. And then, you kind of have that down, and then you start to realize that you are the last person on the planet that needs to be implementing that method or tactic. And so that's the thing. I'm really, really good at figuring out, how to kind of hack the puzzle, how to figure out how the little tricks and how to get things going. But I'm really, really horrible at being the person that actually implements those things. So always at every stage of the game, I have figured out, I will do something, I'll be successful with it, and we'll take it to a point, and I'm like, why can't I get past this point? And then I get someone on our team to do the very thing that I was doing, and immediately when I stop doing it, we go up a level. And I'm like, so the biggest stumbling block I would say for me is not handing things off quick enough in training people. And I think, most people out there, because, I think we're all taught as growing up, the harder you work, the more successful you are. And sometimes we take that as I have to do all the work, because I know all the ins and outs of it. Whereas we just pass it off, even if they put their own spin on it, your team, typically it's going to go better and your business is going to grow faster. So without a doubt, the biggest stumbling block at every step of the way, 4 years ago, it was me. Yesterday, I had one of these moments where it was me and I'm having to get out of the way. It's always me. So I'm learning more and more every day. Focus on figuring out how to take the puzzle apart and put it back in an easier way, but as quickly as possible, give it to someone who's more equipped and more organized to actually put that process into play. So that would be my biggest stumbling block is right here.
I
So,
love
yeah.
it. I love the humility too, man. So far, what's been your single greatest business achievement?
Greatest business achievement, I would say that without a doubt, it was realizing where my stumbling blocks were outside of of me. Like we talked about, like it was me that was a problem. And one of the big things when I started is I was really good at putting together content and products that help people. Like that was something that, and I don't know why it came about that way, but we seemed to put information together in a way that people could consume it and apply it quickly. Which I know you can relate because I know that's something you do extremely well. But the problem is there's always these little pieces that go with, selling a product. And they don't tell you. Everybody says you got a good product, people will just flock to you. Well, that's just a giant load of crap. The biggest stumbling block for me was, you have to write convincing sales copy. You have to, put the website together. And what was a big thing for me is starting to figure out ways, not only with, hiring on staff, but figuring out ways to automate those processes and make those processes much easier. So I would say my biggest achievement was playing off what my biggest stumbling block was and figuring out how to solve that. My biggest achievement was saying, get out of your own way, and you've got two options. You can either hire someone on to do it, and then you can actually sit back and run the company rather than working in the company, or you can build a piece of software or have someone else build a piece of software for you that can actually automate a task or make it simpler. And I would say that when I really believe that, the moment when I said, yes, you're going to screw this up again. I know you will. You're going to continue to screw it up. But the moment when I believed that it was one of those two solutions, that was the day when I would say that was the biggest achievement, because then that was the line. I think everybody has that line in their business where they're like, I'll just work harder. I'll just work harder. I'll make more money. And yeah, that's what we'll do. But then you kind of jump on the other side and you realize it's not about working harder. It's about having people work for you and coming up with better systems. And so I got to the point, and I'm at the point now where I know it's not about working harder. It's about really, we hear this all the time, work smarter. But it's really about teaching people and bringing people into your world and hiring people to do the things that maybe you know how to do, but they can do. And if they can just do it 50% as well, you're going to get huge results. So I think that's the thing. That my biggest achievement was the day that I actually realized you've got to stop working so hard in the business, and you got to get up. You got to get over the top of it, and you've got to be a strategy person. And when I got to that point, everything changed. And sometimes I forget it, but that one moment, that was the biggest achievement. I would say that probably happened to me. I've been doing this professionally, I guess you could say, for 4 years. I would say that probably happened to me in the last, 12 to 18 months where I really started to wrap my mind around it. And what's funny is about the time that I did, we started to see a huge upswing. And every time I forget it just a little bit, I'll have a bad month. So it's funny to watch those things. So yeah.
Well, I mean, and for you, if you're building a team, if you're hiring talent, those people want to do good work,
Yeah.
I mean, I think very often an entrepreneur, especially if you're working out of your house, you tend to not look at your activities as a business. Like in the organization of a business. And if you were going to go get hired somewhere and they just said, yeah, maybe we'll use you or maybe you won't. I mean, maybe some people would go like, that's awesome. I get paid and don't, but most people with some self-worth are going to want to be put to use and feel like they're learning and they're evolving. And it's a challenge for us because I think when we think about everything that has to be done, it's like you just want to go, just get out of the way and let me do it. When in fact, to your point, it's not good for anybody. Yeah. I mean, you get, an employee who's frustrated, you become exasperated, nothing moves forward. So, I mean, I think it's awesome that those two kind of the stumbling block and your achievements are so closely connected and that you were able to identify them.
Well, the key is, and I think this, the key for us is it's never the implementation. As the CEO of our companies, it's never the implementation that we should be working on and spending our day on. And, every time I get stuck, it's because of that. It's always what's going on up here in building the map. It's building the map and saying this is where we're going in 5 months, and this is the map that we're going to take to get there. And when it doesn't quite go the way that we want to, being available and not in the trenches working, but being available to make those tweaks to take you still where you want to go. Because the plan's never going to work the way you want it to. Just never going to happen. But the problem is if you are also an employee in your business and you're working to do the in the trenches work, you're not able to sit back and make those little tweaks that actually get you there when things do go wrong. And that's, I've been there many, many times when I'm like, if I had just been sitting up here looking down instead of in the trenches, I would have been able to make this one tiny tweak that would have taken us in a completely different direction and we'd still be on pace. But because I was so bogged down, I couldn't do it. So yeah, absolutely. I think anybody that can really wrap their minds around it, accept it, and take a step back and say, I have to be the strategy person in my business because I am the CEO. That's what takes you from a business that possibly does, $500,000 a year to $1 million to $2 million. It, takes you to a business where you're doing 10, 20, 30 million a year. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of tweaks, speaking of tactics.
Yes.
Right now, what is your favorite traffic source?
I have it's really a love-hate relationship with all of these traffic sources. I have a couple things which I call kind of my layer one traffic, and I would say those are my favorite because they're fast and I can get data quickly. And I would say that, the ones that I love, it's actually two. I really love solo ads. I love being able to say to someone, I've got a really good product and I think it fits your list, and can we pay you to actually see? And that's good testable traffic. Then you've also got Facebook, which I love Facebook because of the targeting. I can say this group here, I can target them really tightly. They're in Texas and they love Pepsi and blah, 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 blah. And I can put a product in front of them and say, okay, does this picture appeal to them? And those layer ones, and I use Facebook for kind of my later stuff too, as well as the solo ads. But those layer one traffic methods to me are saying, we're going to screw this up. We're absolutely going to mess this up the first time. But how quickly can we dial it in and how quickly can we test it and get that data back? And that's why I love, really with the solo mailings and with the solo ad, for those that don't know, it's paying someone to send things out to their customer list. And with that, you get quick data. With Facebook, you get extremely quick data. And I would say that's why I love those, is because I think you have to be nimble. You have to get your data quickly. And once you get that initial bit of data back, you can make small little tweaks based on what you see. And then the gloves are off. Then you can go to a blog and say, hey, we'd love to pay you to run our ad. And you already have an idea on how things should perform. Little difference in that kind of traffic, but that's the thing. So I would say right out of the gate, Facebook is a first, but a close second is actually with solo ads and things like that. So yeah. Okay,
great. So you got the traffic coming in. What's an effective sales funnel tactic that you've found over the years?
Within the first year, I took a step back and I was like, okay, so the people that I buy from, why do I buy from them? Why do I trust this joker over this joker over here? And what was just I remember it was like the clouds opened up and the sun shined down, and I'm like, well, this joker over here, whether he's trustworthy or not, got on video. Crazy, I was just like, I actually trust this guy more because he got on video. I'm like, of all the people that I think are rock stars that are doing it right and that I really trust, every stinking one of them is getting in front of a camera. And so what I try to do is, people get really stressed out about getting on camera, and I understand they don't know what to say. But the thing is when I got started, I had no clue what to say either. Like now, we have things that write the scripts for us. You mentioned our software earlier. We've got things that write those scripts for us. But still, even if you have no clue what you're doing, getting on camera and just saying, hey, my name's Ben, and this is what I do, and this is, what we've got, and this is why it'd be cool for you to check it out. Click this button. That right there puts you a step above. And even if they don't buy from you in the beginning, you have immediately separated yourself from every other thing they saw that day. And, that's why with a lot of our really branded companies, I still like to have that face-to-face, hey, I'm the CEO of this company. And if anything goes wrong, this is where I live. This is my face. So if you were to see me on the subway, you could punch me in the face. I I think those things, just giving people that face to look at and hearing your voice is extremely powerful. So I would say my favorite sales funnel tactic is immediately after we get an opt-in, or maybe even before an opt-in, where we lead to a sales page. I like for people to hear my voice and see my face in some capacity, and I think that's absolutely huge. So, yeah.
And I think that for folks who aren't doing video but that see it, I mean, there's a ton of data that says how much video is consumed and how amazing it is. For those that aren't doing it, I would just say you have to get over those fears.
Yeah.
There was a point where Ben had never been, like maybe your folks had taken videos of you when you were playing soccer when you were 9, but you had never really done that before. And I think those are the moments where you have to kind of say, how important is success? How important is making a business out of this? I've got to get past that, because now you do it, and you're probably okay, let's shake it out, let's get ready, and you're probably energized to do it at this point, because you realize I'm making a connection, I'm authentic, I don't have anything to hide, and people are going to know that, and it's just going to make everything easier going forward.
Well, man, I was thrown to the wolves. My first video, the first real thing in this industry that got me, I was given a show. It was basically the way it was set up. They put you on. It was just like this. You could see me talking for an hour. So I had to come up with content for an hour. You could see my face. And I was like, okay, cool. That's a little scary, but I'll do it. And then the day of that this was actually coming on, they told me, oh, by the way, John Carlton's going to be doing a show right before you. And his traffic is leading into you. And it was just like superb, So it was one of those things where I could have backed up and said, well, you know what, I'm not going to do this week. But I was like, you know what, go for it. And maybe I was just dumb and just had no idea what I was getting into. But that was one of those things where I was like, we can do this, and we're going to mess up. I did mess up. But still, the feedback that we got on that initial live, back and forth, even though it was a mess, was huge. And it's one of those things where I'm like, from that point forward, you're like, you know what? I just got on with, one of what most people consider, if you're not in this industry, is one of the greatest copywriting minds of our time. He's a titan, and I'm like, I just hung with that, and it was decent. And I can't embarrass myself that much. I could try, and I did try. But it ended up really, really well. And from that point forward, I'm like, we can do anything. The only thing that's going to get in my way is up here. And so we just got to power through that.
I love it, man. Well, you've been a prolific product creator, and you started off with information. You're moving into software in some ways. I know you still like to teach. How do you go about getting ideas for new products?
I think the number one thing is we've always been a company that has actively done stuff. Like while we have a great information business, I'm one of those guys, for better or worse, that actually has to be doing what he's teaching. And so what happens is when you actually get in the sticks, that's the one time I allow myself to actually get in the sticks, is when we're actually building something new. So we got into physical products a little while back, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put my staff on this, and my staff runs it completely now. But right now, I want to learn it. Like, I want to learn the ins and outs. I want to learn what my customers, that if I end up teaching this, what they're going through, what they ran into. And so I got in the middle of these things. And when you get in the middle of things, you start to see the gaps in the world. It's one of those things where you're like, why does this not exist yet? Why is there no training that teaches how to do this? Like, I had to go to 8 different places to find this. Why is it not in one place? Or there's some task that takes you 3 days to do, and you're like, could we not just automate this with a piece of software? So a lot of my stuff comes from being in the sticks for what I call my month period. Like, I'll take a month and I'll just immerse myself in what we're doing, and that's where a lot of our stuff comes out of. Now, I would say that's pretty valuable, but I think even more valuable than that is once you get through that stage, we have this beautiful thing, and you do too, called a support desk. And I'm telling you, our support desk has been the most valuable tool we've had since we started. And the feedback that our people give us that have bought our products and that have gone through our stuff, and they say, well, Ben, this was great, but now I'm doing this thing that's a little different, and I'm stuck here. And it requires you to think, well, that's an interesting problem. And I wonder how many other people have faced that. And then you start looking a little bit, you're like, a lot of people face that. And now you've got a great idea for a product. And, you get yourself on learning it. You get, if you have any team learning it, you get those customers that hit you up with like trying to figure it out. You work with them one-on-one and they help you figure out how to solve it. And now you've got a partner that basically helps you put something together. And then you say, you know what, here's a free copy of this. Don't ever worry about that again. Thanks for helping me build it. And now you've got something that has solved problems for thousands and thousands of people. So for me, new products are really a product of getting in the sticks for a short period of time, learning the problems, putting our solution out there, and then listening to feedback of what other people are facing because they did something a little different here and there. And that's, from day one, that's been the thing that's guided us.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
What is something, in your opinion, that every marketer must know how to do well? Even if they end up not ultimately doing it themselves a lot, but that they have to inherently know.
I think the key word there is marketer. To me, a marketer is someone who understands some core things. Now, you may not need to know everything about writing copy. Obviously you can hire people, there's solutions for that. Haha. And, but, but the key is I think to adequately understand what we do, you have to say, this is who I'm selling to. Like this is the person I'm selling to. And you have to have a good kind of methodology of researching who you're selling to and what their problems actually are. And, there's a couple different ways to find that. A lot of what we do is we'll go look at who else is in the industry and we'll just break down everything they're doing. And then we'll try to say, okay, well, why are they doing it that way? And then, we'll go through the funnel, we'll buy. So I think every marketer has to be willing to do research. As boring as that is the most boring part of what we do. But doing the research keeps you from trying to sell something that, number one, your audience doesn't need. But number two, going about it incorrectly. I think when you actually know how to dig into what your market needs and how to really pull those clues out of a market, nobody can touch you because you are just having a different conversation with your consumers than anybody else is out there, because most people, unfortunately, are not willing to do that research. So that when you do the research, you speak on a much higher level than everybody else. And I think that's the key, is knowing how to do the research, picking up those tactics, and really starting to say, this is who I'm talking to. This is what they're really struggling with. This is what they wake up in the middle of the night worried about. When you get that down, it's a completely different ballgame.
Awesome. Which part of marketing do you wish that you knew more about?
This one's fun because there's a lot. There's just so many things. But I think I wish, and this goes back to my other thing, I wish I knew how to train people better. Simple. People are like, well, Ben, you got a huge team, man. You got I think we got 12 people on our team now, and for, what we started doing, that makes no sense to most people. But I wish we do a great job with training our people to do things for us. I wish I was better at that, because you start wrapping your mind around the fact that the better you are at teaching your own, I teach customers something for a living, I train them how to do it, and yet I still have trouble taking that same training and giving it to my people sometimes. So I think that's the key thing, is I wish I was better at being able to say, train someone to do this within the first week that you knew how to do it instead of the first month. And if I could learn how to do that better, or I could learn how to put my staff in the middle of things better, that's the thing I wish I knew more about. And that's not a marketing tactic, I don't think. That's more of a running a business tactic. But the thing is I love marketing. I love, all aspects of it. And what's going to give me more time to go learn more things? Being better at training the staff. So sorry if that was an odd answer, but for me, that's the truth.
That's a great answer, man. We're about to jump into the Hot 5 round. Before we do, let's thank our sponsors. Welcome back to the Hot 5 round. We're looking for quick answers to these juicy questions. Ben, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What is the one thing that you do every day that makes you money?
Talk to my customers. That's the key. Whether it's Facebook, whether it's email, whatever it is, I try to make a point every day to talk to as many of my customers as possible, because that's where the money comes from. Easy.
What do you think is the biggest? What has the biggest potential for growth out there? This could be the way that we market, the way that we communicate, styles of products.
I think most people out there right now, if they were really, really focused on it, they would get away from traffic tactics. Like traffic tactics, that's what Facebook is. It's the traffic tactic. And I think the biggest potential for growth is businesses really wrapping their minds around, I've got one main core product and how to build a funnel around it. And our industry's starting to get that. It's moving away. A lot of people are moving away from the tricks. A lot of small businesses are moving away from the tricks, and they're starting to figure out, this is who I am, and let me just build one little sales funnel around that. Let me get the lead in. Let me figure out how to turn that lead into, old school stuff, right? And I feel like we're just now starting to really mature as online marketers and business owners that are jumping into online. That's the key. It's not about all this crazy stuff out here. It's about focus. So I think one of the greatest, and once again, a weird answer to a question, I think the greatest thing that is going to happen in our market is people are going to get extremely focused, at least the ones that are wanting to make money. And when they get really focused on one or two things, you're going to see an explosion of really good products. And I think the biggest potential for growth is just for people to understand it's not about shiny stuff. It's about focus. So
beautiful. Is there a software or app that you would recommend, something that maybe you use with your team or in your own personal life?
Yeah, and it's such a, like, I don't even think about it because it's so ingrained now. But like when you said that, I'm like, and I just looked over and it's the one app that's open, on my computer right now. And for a long time, we were using Facebook and HipChat, or Facebook and Skype to communicate. We moved to HipChat. See, I said it because it's right there. But so HipChat to me was a way for me to privately bring in my team and let no one else in. We were using Skype, and all these other people were able to get into my world. So I'd be answering something for my team, and there'd be like 50 other things. Oh, I need to answer that, Facebook the same way. I'd answer something for my team, and there'd be 50 other things. So actually taking the people that I work with and putting them in a box and just us having a place to communicate was a monstrous thing for me. So HipChat is just an absolutely amazing thing for me. And yeah, that'd be the one. It's boring again, but it's one of those things that when you get to the point to where you've got anybody on your team, you want to be able to talk to them every day, and you don't want to get distracted while you're talking to them.
Yeah, I have the same experience when I'm trying to communicate with people in Facebook using they have a great instant messenger. It's terrific, cross-platform. But I invariably find myself clicking around, I'm refreshing, and suddenly I'm down a rabbit hole. So I think that's great. That's a great tip.
Well, I got one more too, and I've just stumbled onto this, and I it's one of those things where I just have to mention it. I am a huge fan right now of an email company called Active Campaign, and I have never been so comfortable with an email marketing software in my life. And what's funny is, the second I discovered it and the second I started playing with it, I was instantly able to automate a ton of what I do through the day. And I'm now more confident in buying traffic because I know I got something working for me 24/7 all the time. So it's pretty funny that it's one of those things that I don't want to get into too far because I'm still learning it. But Active Campaign for me has been an absolute game changer with how I run my day.
I've actually started to use it.
Oh, it's great, isn't it? And
yep.
What's funny is, I work with offline clients too, like people that have brick and mortars, and when we show them what we built them, we call it machinery. When we show them the machinery that we've built to automate their lives, it blows their mind. And actually, within a couple months of using this for offline clients and local folks, we have changed several businesses where they don't even work the same way anymore. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it gets a high, that's more of a marketing tool rather than a communication tool. But I can't say enough nice things about that company. So
that's great, man. Is there a book that you would recommend to our listeners?
If we're not going to go for the 4-hour work week, I think that's always a good one. But there's a book that just explained the selling process to me really, really well that I did not too long ago. And I think it's the Dan Sullivan question, or I don't even remember what the name of it is, but you know what I'm talking about.
That's it.
And I'm sure we can clean it up when we actually, but there was 4 questions. There's 4 questions that I ask every business that we work with now, every client that we decide we want to really help on a one-on-one basis. And really, when someone comes to me and says, I'm lost, I don't know what to do next, I've gotten to this point in my business, but I have no clue what to do next. I literally just say, go read this book. And it's a selling book. It teaches you how to like bring people in so that you can coach them or you can sell them stuff. But on a personal level, I start applying those 4 things in my life, and I'm like, oh, well, this is how you get to the next level, man. And if you don't have this, you can't get here. So for me, it was a personal development book too. So that one was just absolutely huge. And I always forget the name of the guy who wrote it. So, that's great. He wrote a book that I remember the tactics, but I don't remember who the hell wrote it. But very, very good stuff in that book.
Yeah, I think it was Dan Sullivan.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I nailed it, but I'm not sure. Yeah. So
I think it's a great book. I've read it. All right, final question. If you had to start all over again today and you had a laptop, I'm going to give you $1,000. You don't have your connections, but you know everything that you know. What would you start doing to start to make money in let's say in 30 days?
Services. There's 2 things that we really focus on with any business that we work with. And if I didn't have my reach, I just had the laptop and $1,000, I'm gonna go around to businesses that I frequent. So I'm already a customer, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna go around to those businesses and I'm going to offer to help them to automate things. So there's really 2 aspects to this. Number one, when they get a new customer in, what's the onboarding process? I think onboarding is extremely huge, even for brick and mortar, that gets those customers to actually come back or spend more money. So I would go build an onboarding process. I would set up, an active campaign. I would set up an automation. I'd build an automation for that business and I would charge them for it. Like that would be my first thing. Once we got them some cool results there, I would say, hey, would you like your people to pay you monthly? Would you like to switch from a one-off model? You can keep the one-off model, but would you like to add a layer of membership to your business? And then I would charge them to build a membership for them because number one, that's going to change their business just immediately. Within a month, that will change their business. And when you do those kinds of things for businesses, they're going to talk about you. And really, really quickly, we would build up a nice clientele doing that. And that's super cheap because it's all you really have to have is an autoresponder. And with payment options like we've got out there today, you got lead pages, you got ClickFunnels, you got Stripe that you can take payments, super cheap. That gives you some room to work. So even if you didn't get any business the first 3 months because you were feeling your way out, at this point we wouldn't have to feel our way out. But if you were, you've got an autoresponder, a thing to set up a page, and a payment system that you can set up for a client and yourself. Done. And 4 years ago we didn't have that stuff. Now it's much easier. If you took everything away from you and me and everybody else listening, we'd be able to build back up really, really quickly. So yeah.
I love it, man. Let's wrap it up. Do you have any parting thoughts for the Peak Marketer family? And also, how can people connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is you can actually find me at scriptdoll.com, which is kind of our baby. That's what I do. Or you can always jump over to benadkins.com and you can bug me there. And I'd love for you to bug me. Hit me up, ask me questions. I'm always around, and I love hearing stories and helping. The thing that I'd love to leave you with is there's a lot of mess out there. Especially if you get into online marketing, there's a lot of people out there that it's just hypey and there's a new thing coming out every week. And, you see a lot of this stuff, but I think at its core, you have to figure out, what do I love to do? What do I love to build? What is it that I really want to do that I think can change the world? Even if maybe other people don't see it yet, what is it that I want to do? And you have to say, okay, right now I got to do something else a little bit on the side to finance this dream. But as long as you have that focus, it's worth it. And you will be apart from everybody else, because most people are, when they get into this, they're just like, I got to make some money. And, the money stuff is much easier if people that you work with and you interact with know you're going somewhere. I always want to work with people who are not, I just need to make money because of this. I need to make money because I need to support my family, but also I want to build this thing, or I want to build this, lifestyle. People that know where they want to go are insanely attractive. It's just crazy. So the thing is if I had to give you any advice, sit down for, a couple hours and say, this is where I want to go. And it might change a little bit, but having that, this is where we're going, is going to give you a leg up on just about everybody out there, because most people, let's be honest, are just kind of flailing around. So that would be my advice. Get an idea of where you actually want to go.
Ben Adkins, folks, I love it, man. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today.
Enjoyed it, man. I appreciate it, and I hope we gave some good stuff.
It was terrific. All right.